Have we been watching Tony Stark's story all along through the eyes of someone else? I started thinking about this the moment Doctor Strange's multiverse of madness quietly changed how dreams work in the MCU. Because it wasn't just a cool concept, it was a rule. When Strange dreams, he's not imagining. He's borrowing sight from a variant somewhere else, and suddenly every unexplained vision in the franchise feels less random and more like surveillance. And once I let that idea sit, I couldn't stop thinking about Tony Stark, a character haunted by dreams that never fully belonged to him. Tony doesn't just dream casually. His visions shape decisions, inventions, obsessions, and fears as if someone else's future keeps bleeding into his present. What if those dreams weren't warnings or anxiety, but windows? And what if the person looking back through that window was the MCU's greatest unseen threat? This theory doesn't start loud, it starts quietly, buried inside moments we already accepted without asking why. It asks us to reconsider Tony not as a prophet or paranoid genius, but as an unwilling observer of a destiny that was never his. And once you see that, every dream, every vision, every sleepless night begins to line up into something far darker. Because the more I connected the dots, the more it felt like Tony was never alone in his head. And the question became whose eyes were really watching. That's where this story truly begins. Right now, pay close attention. I noticed something strange about Tony's dreams in Infinity War because he describes them with a clarity that feels lived, not imagined. He tells Pepper about a child, a future son, a life that hasn't happened yet, and he says it felt real, painfully real. That line stuck with me, because the MCU later gives him a daughter instead, and yet the dream doesn't feel wrong, it feels misaligned. Now here's where things get uncomfortable, because in Marvel lore, Doctor Doom has a son, a future he's obsessed with preserving. What if Tony wasn't dreaming of his own child, but witnessing Doom's certainty, Doom's legacy, Doom's belief that his bloodline survives everything? I think that's why it felt real to him, because it was real to someone else, someone who never doubts his future. And once that possibility exists, Tony's dreams stop being abstract and start behaving like transmissions. Dreams don't warn him, they inform him, pushing him toward decisions that shape the world. And that's when I realized something terrifying. Tony isn't seeing possibilities, he's seeing outcomes. Outcomes that belong to a man who believes the world must be controlled to be saved. That belief doesn't belong to Iron Man, it belongs to Doctor Doom. And suddenly, the dream makes sense in a way that's hard to ignore. Because Tony wasn't dreaming of hope, he was glimpsing conviction. And conviction, when borrowed, can feel like destiny, especially when you don't know the source. That's when fear quietly grows, inside. I started rewatching Age of Ultron with this idea in mind, and Tony's behavior suddenly felt less reactive and more prophetic. The vision Wanda gives him isn't just a scare tactic, it locks onto something already living in his subconscious. Tony even says it himself, that what he saw wasn't just manipulation, it was his legacy. Legacy is a strange word to use for a nightmare, unless the nightmare belongs to someone else. And what he sees is specific. The Avengers dead, the world broken, Earth silent. This isn't chaos, it's conquest. And that distinction matters. Doctor Doom is one of the few characters capable of wiping out the Avengers not through chance, but through calculation. And Tony's fear isn't that the Avengers fail, it's that they die because they weren't prepared. That fear drives him to Ultron, to armor, to control, the exact philosophy Doom lives by. It's almost poetic. Tony fights a villain created from a mindset that was never fully his. And the more I watched, the more it felt like Tony was echoing decisions already made somewhere else. Ultron isn't born from madness. He's born from borrowed certainty. And certainty is dangerous when you don't know its origin. Tony never questions where the vision came from, only how to stop it. That's not fear. That's obedience. Obedience to a future that isn't his. And Doom would absolutely approve. Because Doom believes preparation justifies everything, even someone else's suffering. And Tony pays the price, long before Endgame. There's another detail in Age of Ultron that kept bothering me, and it's Tony's obsession with a suit around the world. He describes it like something he's already seen, not imagined, as if the idea was planted. Project Insight failed, S.H.I.E.L.D. failed, but Doom never relies on institutions. He relies on machines. Doom has Doombots, autonomous enforcers protecting his world with cold efficiency. Tony's Iron Legion is the same idea, repainted with heroism. And when Ultron hijacks it, it feels less like an accident and more like inevitability. I think Tony was building something he didn't fully understand, because he was following a blueprint he never wrote. Blueprints imply design, intention, authorship, and Doom is nothing if not deliberate. Tony keeps saying he's protecting the world, but Doom would say the same thing. The difference is awareness. Doom knows the cost and accepts it. Tony just feels the weight without knowing where it comes from. That's why he never sleeps easy, even when he wins. His mind is crowded with futures that don't belong to him. And those futures all share one philosophy. Control is safety. That philosophy doesn't originate with Iron Man. It originates with a ruler. A man who believes freedom is a weakness. Dr. Doom has always believed that. And Tony unknowingly channels it through metal code and fear. Fear that was never born inside him. It was inherited through dreams. Dreams that crossed universes and left fingerprints everywhere. Once you know where to look, everything connects. I started thinking about how Doctor Strange described dreams as windows, not messages, and that distinction matters here. A message is sent intentionally, but a window just exists, and anyone can look through it. Tony never chose to look, he just happened to be open. Open minds are vulnerable, especially genius ones searching for answers. Doom's mind would be powerful enough to broadcast unintentionally across realities. And if any mind could tune into that frequency, it would be Tony Stark's. This reframes Tony's entire arc, not as a man chasing control, but as one haunted by borrowed certainty. He's reacting to futures he's already seen, not ones he's afraid of. And that explains why he keeps escalating. Bigger suits, bigger risks, bigger sacrifices. Escalation only makes sense if you believe the threat is inevitable. Doom believes inevitability is truth. Tony slowly starts to believe it too, without ever knowing why. And then Endgame happens, and Tony fulfills a destiny he never consciously chose. He sacrifices himself to save everyone, a noble end, but also a calculated outcome. Calculated endings are Doom's specialty. And while Doom survives, Tony doesn't. Almost like the window closed. Tony's purpose was never to win, it was to prepare the board. And preparation is Doom's greatest weapon. The hero unknowingly served the villain's philosophy. Not by force, but by influence. Influence travels easiest through dreams. That's why it went unnoticed. Until now, when you finally step back, you see the pattern. It was always there. I kept asking myself why the MCU would plant something this subtle, and the answer is timing. Dr. Doom hasn't appeared yet, but his shadow already fits the shape of the story. Marvel loves retroactive meaning, moments that only make sense later. Tony's dreams could be groundwork, emotional foreshadowing for a villain defined by certainty. And certainty is the opposite of hope, which is why Doom and Stark are perfect thematic opposites. One believes the future must be controlled, the other believes it can be inspired. But Tony slowly drifts toward Doom's worldview, not because he wants to, but because he's seen it work. That's the danger of seeing outcomes without context. You stop questioning methods. And Doom never questions his methods. This theory doesn't make Tony a pawn, it makes him a bridge. A bridge between universes, philosophies, destinies. And bridges are meant to be crossed, not remembered. Tony's sacrifice closes the bridge, but the idea survives. The idea that safety comes from control. And that idea is Doom's crown. When Doom arrives, he won't feel new. He'll feel familiar, like a dream you forgot you had. And suddenly, remember, that familiarity is intentional. It's been seeded for years, through Tony's eyes, or rather through Doom's, reflected back at us. And once you accept that, the MCU feels darker, more tragic, and far more deliberate. Nothing was accidental, not even Tony's dreams. They were invitations to look ahead. And someone answered, just not Tony. It was Doom, watching patiently, always. I think the most unsettling part is realizing how much Tony trusted those visions. He never doubts their validity, only their timing. That trust costs him relationships, peace, and eventually his life. And all of it traces back to information he never asked for. If dreams are windows, then Tony kept standing in front of one without closing the blinds. Meanwhile, someone on the other side kept moving. Dr. Doom doesn't need to appear to influence the narrative. He just needs someone to believe the future is fixed. And Tony did. This reframes Iron Man's entire journey as tragic inevitability rather than heroic improvisation. He wasn't reacting to threats. He was aligning with outcomes. And that alignment pulled him closer to Doom's worldview with every film. The genius inventor slowly became the perfect observer. Observers don't change outcomes. They confirm them. That's why Tony never truly escapes his fate. He fulfills it exactly as seen, Snap included. And somewhere, across realities, Doom keeps moving forward. Tony's sacrifice clears the board, making space for a ruler. A ruler who believes heroes are tools, and tools are meant to be used. Tony was the greatest tool of all, not because he was weak, but because he was open. Open minds shape the future, even when they don't mean to. And Doom understands that better than anyone. He always has. That's why this theory fits. It doesn't rewrite history. It reveals intention, hidden in plain sight, through dreams, through fear, and through Tony. When I step back and look at the Infinity Saga as a whole, this idea quietly stitches itself everywhere. Tony is the only Avenger consistently haunted by visions. Others react to the present. Tony reacts to futures. That difference defines him. It also isolates him. Isolation is fertile ground for influence. And Doom thrives on influence. The MCU never needed to show Doom early because Tony was already doing the narrative work. By normalizing fear of the future, by teaching the audience that protection requires sacrifice, Doom will simply take that lesson further. And unlike Tony, he won't hesitate. This makes Doom's eventual arrival feel earned, not abrupt. He's been here in spirit, watching through borrowed dreams. And Tony was the perfect lens. Not because he was chosen, but because he was compatible. Genius recognizes genius, even across universes. And that recognition can be dangerous. It blurs identity. Tony thinks he's seeing threats, but he's seeing strategies. Strategies that don't value freedom, only survival. At any cost. That's Doom's creed. And Tony unknowingly carried it, like a virus of certainty. It spread through armor and code, and ended with a snap. The universe was saved. But the lesson remained. Control works, and Doom will use that truth, because Tony already proved it. That's the real legacy. Not Iron Man, but the idea he left behind. And ideas don't die. They wait for the right mind. Dr. Doom is that mind, and he's been dreaming too, long before us. So what does this mean moving forward if this theory holds any weight? It means Tony Stark's story isn't over, even in death. His influence echoes, not as a hero but as a catalyst. Doom doesn't need Tony alive. He needed Tony convinced. Convinced the future was something to fear, and fear builds armor. Armor builds distance. Distance builds control. That chain reaction is Doom's design, and Tony unknowingly completed it. When Doom finally arrives in the MCU, his ideology will already feel familiar, because we've been living with it since Iron Man. This theory doesn't diminish Tony, it elevates his tragedy. He wasn't wrong, he was early. Early to a future shaped by someone else. And that's the saddest part. Tony spent his life fighting villains, only to serve the greatest one unknowingly. Doom never lifted a finger. He let dreams do the work. That's power. Silent power. And the MCU has always been about power. Who has it? Who uses it? And who pays the price? Tony paid it all, not knowing why. Until now, when you connect the dreams, the visions, the armor, it points one direction, toward Latveria, toward Doom, and toward a future already seen. Tony saw it first, but he didn't own it. He just witnessed it and paid for it. That's the cost of looking ahead, through someone else's eyes, and never realizing it until the end. That's the twist. We missed it, hidden in dreams, and waiting for Doom's arrival, finally. So the next time you rewatch Iron Man, pay attention to Tony's eyes when he talks about the future. He's not imagining, he's remembering. Remembering a future that belongs to someone else. Dr. Doom has always been there. Not on screen, but in influence. Through dreams, through fear, through certainty. Tony Stark was the window, and Doom was looking through. That doesn't make Tony weak. It makes his sacrifice heavier. He didn't just save the universe. He shaped the next one, whether he wanted to or not. And that's why this theory matters. It recontextualizes everything without breaking anything. It turns dreams into evidence, and Tony into a tragic conduit. If Doom arrives, he won't feel like a surprise. He'll feel inevitable. Because we've already seen his future. We just thought it was Tony's. That's the brilliance of it. And the tragedy. Everything was right in front of us. We just didn't know how to look. Now you do. And once you see it, it's impossible to unsee. So if this made you rethink Tony's story, give it a like, share it with someone who loves Marvel, and subscribe for more deep dives like this. Because there are always more dreams to decode, and more secrets hiding in plain sight. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, keep watching closely. The multiverse is always watching back, and sometimes it blinks like a dream ending. Fade to black. Thanks for listening. Stay curious. Always subscribe.